The future of public sector unions may be hanging by a thread. Yesterday, in a 5-4 ruling, the Supreme Court ruled that it was a violation of the First Amendment for public sector unions to require certain employees to contribute dues. The case, brought by a group of home health care workers in Illinois with the help of anti-labor group the National Right to Work Coalition, tried to overrule a 1977 Supreme Court decision, Abood versus Detroit Board of Education, which holds that public sector unions can compel workers to pay union fees even if they are not members. The court did not overturn that 1977 ruling. It ruled that these home health care workers, categorized as partial public employees, cannot be required to pay union fees. But, and it is a big but, writing the majority opinion, Justice Samuel Alito called the 1977 decision questionable on several grounds, hinting it may only be a matter of time before the court deals a much bigger, possibly fatal blow to public sector unions. Joining me now is Associate Professor of Political Science and Public Affairs at Columbia University and Fellow at the Roosevelt Institute, Dorian Warren. Dorian, it's always great to see you.
Great to see you.
Professor Warren, I'm sorry, more officially. So this ruling seems most notable for the door that it opens and not potentially the ruling itself. How did you read Alito's comment?
So this is the second case where Alito has offered a critique of Abood, and in some ways what he did in this case with the other four conservative justices was to put labor's head in the guillotine but wait to drop the blade, right? So they've been trying to weaponize the First Amendment around this issue, especially of public employees, because there's all this dicta in the opinion about why Abood is wrong, that public sector case, why it's against the First Amendment in some ways. And here's the logic. If you extend the logic of all the way through, it would be like saying, hey, I live in a blue state under President George Bush, and I don't want to pay my taxes because I don't appreciate I don't agree with his political ideology. So therefore, my First Amendment right should be, I shouldn't have to pay taxes.
Right.
For the public good, the public benefit that the federal government provides.
And quite literal benefit, right?
Yes.
I mean, these home health care workers are benefiting from the unions. I mean, tell us a little bit more about how that whole system works.
So these workers, some of the lowest paid workers, $6 an hour starting about 10 years ago. By the end of this year, they'll make about $13 an hour. So basically, the union has doubled their salary.
Right.
So they've gone from roughly $11,500 a year to about $26,000 a year. The workers that sued, all they pay for that, so from $11,500 to $26,000 is $650.
Right.
That's a small price for a raise. And so what happens is they're saying, well, we don't want to pay union fees.
We just want to.
It's not like they're saying we don't want the raise. Right. But they're saying we don't want to pay union fees. And the whole point of this case is that there's a free rider problem. No one ever wants to pay for a collective benefit.
Right.
But it costs somebody to provide, I don't know, roads, schools, clean water.
Right.
It costs, right? It costs the government to do all that, which is why we tax citizens to pay for that, and the same in the union context. It costs to increase wages and make workplaces safe. And yes, you have a right not to be a member, and you pay a little less than actual membership dues, but you should still pay something. That's the existing precedent of the Supreme Court.
I feel like, given the attention we are paying to income inequality and wage disparity, and we have the chart that shows, the absolutely parallel track, declining union membership, declining middle class wages. Is there now, I mean, maybe this is me being too Pollyanna-ish about this whole thing, but there is a seeming recognition here that declining union power is worse for the American worker. Is it possible? I mean, of course, we don't know this conclusively, but could this not actually, in some ways, serve to get us out of that trough and strengthen union power insofar as it's very evident why it's good to have strong unions?
I think so, and in fact, the two main unions that represent these workers, SEIU and AFSCME, have been going around the last few months and talking to their members, signing them up for dues collection, and I think it's actually been healthy for those unions and these workers to say, hey, look, this is what the union provides you. This is the collective benefit that shapes your life. These workers, by the way, didn't even have health care themselves before the union. they got health care through joining the union.
Look what you got.
Right? So I think it's actually healthy. It's gonna force the labor movement to create a new model of unionism and to really go the full length to explain to workers, this is what a non-union workplace looks like. This is what a union workplace looks like.
The other piece of this is it's not just about workers who are sort of skeptical about, having to pay some dues. It's also about the National Right to Work Coalition and business interests who benefit greatly from having incredibly weakened or diluted union strength.
That's right. They're on the one hand, they've always been anti-union. This has been a long-term goal to defund public employee unions, and that's related to a political goal because the strength of the American labor movement today is in the public sector. It's about 35% roughly. And they also, the National Right to Work Committee, funded, by the way, by the Koch brothers, by the Walton family.
You may have heard of these people before.
Kind of familiar names.
They have an agenda.
But they know also that these unions fund the Democratic Party. So what better way to defund the Democratic Party and take out an opponent than to go at the heart of public sector unionism and the ability to collect dues that finances union. By the way, political activity in the public sector, that has to be collected separately from just union dues.
Right.
So just to be clear, that is already the law. But the point is still to weaken one of their key opponents.
I just wonder, when we talk about this, the whole sort of First Amendment argument that you outlined before, the oligarchs getting involved in the sort of like workers' wages. We talked about this in the break. Political choices matter. Elected representatives matter. This all, this goes to the power of the vote. I think when it comes to the Supreme Court, we tend to think, oh, that's happening with the 9 justices. But truly, there is a way for people to influence their own futures and determine their own futures, but also the broader sort of political narrative.
That's right. Elections matter, and who is appointed to the Supreme Court matters greatly, and so that means not just the presidency is important, but also the Senate, as you pointed out, is really important for the confirmation of Supreme Court justices. And by the way, this is not only an attack on workers. Let me be very clear. Home health care aides and personal care attendants are over 90% women and greatly women of color. So this is also an attack on women in this country. So, and there was a dual blow yesterday, right? It was Hobby Lobby and Harris v. Quinn, an attack on women, an attack on workers simultaneously. An attack on women, an attack on workers, an attack on people of color. Supreme Court says, you're welcome, guys. Unbelievable. Sometimes you have to laugh through the pain of all of this. And then realize that better days are quite possibly ahead. Indeed. Dorian Warren from Columbia University, thank you for being the sage on this. Thank you, Alex. Good to see you. You too.